Hey guys, Mark here, Blueglow Electronics. Welcome to a new little video mini-series we've created, hopefully designed to help you better understand an audio push-pull amplifier. Look, about 40 years ago, I was getting into the ham radio hobby. It's really where I got my start in electronics. And in that hobby, you have these individuals called Elmers. And Elmers are nothing more than a mentor, somebody that's been around the block in the hobby for a while, willing to help out someone new in the hobby. But I had a book, and I took the book over to see my Elmer, and I put a schematic in front of the Elmer, and I said, hey, could you walk me through this schematic, each and every component, and help me understand why they used that component, why they sized it the way they did, how it works with all the other components. Help me understand this schematic beginning to end. And the Elmer kind of looked at me maybe a little bit like I was crazy, because he really said, hey, you're going to have a little bit of electronic fundamentals to understand that. And I said, well, hey, if you're willing to teach me that as well, I'm willing to learn it. And that's really what got me going on this whole journey. So I had this same, I thought back to that 40 years ago, that conversation I had when I was recently doing the Fisher 30A restoration series. And if you guys watched any of that series, video 2 in that was supposed to be a schematic walkthrough. Well, I got busy creating the video for that, and I started out with a PowerPoint deck of, by the way, this schematic. And I was just going to walk you through kind of in general how it worked. The next thing I knew, I had created a 50-some page PowerPoint deck that literally was doing what I had asked the Elmer to teach me. What are each and every one of these components, and why do they exist, and what do they do? How do they interact with the other components? Why were those values chosen? So I went off the deep end basically. So here I am today. This is just the intro to using the Fisher 30A amplifier as kind of the palette, we're going to call it, for teaching you about how push-pull amplifiers work. So if that sounds like fun, this little series, probably 6 or 7 videos in the making here. I like these smaller size digestible videos, and I'll show you how we're going to go about making those little smaller bite-sized chunks for you. So let's take a look. So this is the little Fisher 30A that I just made a restoration series on, and I'm going to use it as the basis for teaching you about a push-pull amplifier. These happen to be mono blocks, but the same concepts would apply if these were in a stereo chassis or in a guitar amp. It really doesn't matter. The concepts are going to be the same as long as it is a push-pull tube audio amplifier. All right, so I started with this schematic, which was a Sam's Photo Fact from 1959, the Howard W. Sam's company. They used to take original manufacturer schematics and they would mark them up and add things to them like voltages throughout. Maybe they put a little table over here on the left for resistance values you could use in troubleshooting. But they really brought these things to life so that to help out repair technicians. But I wanted to clean that up, and we went from there into this. So I took that cleaned up schematic and I broke it down into functional components or little circuits that have a purpose in this amplifier. And when you stitch all of those little circuits together, you end up with the push-pull amplifier. So I color-coded each of these, and as you can see here, there are 6 different ones. And the way we're going to do this video series is each video is going to do a deep dive on each one of these little functional blocks, help you understand how they work, what they're made up of, and how they interact with the other blocks. And then when you stitch all that together, you fully understand a push-pull amplifier. So before we dive into creating a video on each of these individual little block diagram circuits, I just thought I'd talk for a second about the overall purpose of an audio amplifier, specifically a push-pull, since that's what this video series is about. And we're going to use the Fisher 30A as kind of our use case throughout this because it's such a classic circuit design. But here I say my purpose is to take in a line level input. Okay, well that's if you've got a hi-fi amplifier. We could be talking about a guitar amplifier where you're taking the signal from the pickup. We could be talking about a microphone and the signal produced by it. Lots of devices could produce an input signal into an audio amplifier. But If you read here, it says it takes this little signal, line level signal, and amplifies it enough so that it can drive an output transducer. That's just electrical term, but we know transducers in the real world practically for what we're talking about here as a speaker. Okay, so I go on to say, take teeny audio signal, run through amplifier, create a powerful signal that drives the speaker. In electrical terms, a better way of saying that might be convert a low voltage, low current signal, so teeny little signal, into a low voltage. And by the way, you would not want to create a high voltage signal on the output of your amplifier. You could get shocked or electrocuted. So low voltage, high current signal capable of driving a speaker, because it takes a lot of current to drive a speaker cone, enough to create vibrations, which then ultimately create sound waves which flow to your ear and turn into music for you. So if you can kind of grasp the overall purpose, now we'll go into the video series that walks you through all the little subcomponents that make this amplifier up and help you understand them. Guys, I used to be a college instructor. I taught at a community college at night for quite a few years. And I really love this classroom style. And so that's kind of how I'm treating this video series, is that each one of these little block diagram components will make up a class. And when you put the whole series together, you've had a college level course in push-pull amplifier. Two more quick topics before I let you go from this intro video. The first one here, I know people might see it as a taboo topic, math, okay? I see this all the time. I follow tons of forums. People want to learn electronics. They even want to become a repair technician, yet they do not want to learn any of the math associated with electronics. And I'm just going to give you a little example of something I might see in a thread posted. So this may or may not be a real post that I found on Facebook, and I may or may not have redacted the person's name that posted it and replaced it with the words repair tech or hobbyist here, okay? So this is just a classic Williamson design amplifier circuit. And this is what they say. I'm working on a classic Williamson amplifier. The coupling capacitor between the first and second stage is a 0.05 UF capacitor. Since those are hard to find, could I replace it with a 0.047 microfarad capacitor? If so, what effect might it have? So, two things. One, if you watch this video series, you will be able to answer that question on your own. Why? Because I'm going to teach you enough basic math as part of this to help you navigate the formulas you would need to figure the answer out to the question that person asked. Look, there's a couple levels of math involved in electronics, especially what we're talking about here, but none of it is crazy, okay? For stuff like Ohm's law, you really just need some basic elementary school math, the stuff you learn in 3rd, 4th grade. For rearranging formulas, which we often do, you kind of need some maybe 5th, 6th grade math. But a good bit of the formula manipulation we're going to do in here in solving equations is what you would have learned in Algebra 1 in high school. So if you made it that far in math, you pick up on some of this. If not, I'm going to walk you through it as we do the math. The good news is you don't have to learn how to actually do the math. You just need to be able to understand it. And there's lots of calculators or AI tools that can help you do the math these days. So I'm going to make you capable of being an electronics repair technician, or understand maybe building amps and understand the math enough that you understand the question that was asked a minute ago. And then using these tools, you could go get the answer yourself. So there's a teeny bit of Algebra 2 sprinkled in here and there when we start talking about logarithmic functions or slopes. But there again, you don't need to learn it. You just need to understand some basic concepts. And I promise if you watch this series, I will get you there. One more little topic and I'll dismiss class for today, okay? A few fundamental concepts you're going to have to wrap your head around before we get into the individual videos, okay? First and foremost, components can have more than one purpose. In other words, play more than one role in a circuit. And I'll just give you a little example here. This R1 potentiometer, it is playing the role of a voltage divider circuit. It is also playing the role of a fixed resistor all at the same time. for two different parts of this circuit. And you'll learn more about that in the upcoming input networks video. Second up, you must think of every circuit and component from two different standpoints, okay? If you go through college level electronics, you will ultimately get a book, and the book will be titled something like DC Circuit Analysis. So you would do a complete analysis on this circuit or this complete amplifier from a DC or direct current standpoint. Think 9-volt battery or AAA battery you use in your remote control. Well, inside of an amplifier, there's a power supply that creates a fixed solid voltage like that, typically at a little bit higher voltage. But at any rate, you got to be able to understand components and how they react to DC and how the circuit works from a DC standpoint. You will then get a book titled AC Circuit Analysis that you'll have to learn, and you will apply the same concepts, but from an alternating current, much like the signal coming out of your wall, the 120 volts if you're here in the US. But a audio signal, music, that is also an AC signal. It's alternating current or varying voltage waveform. So those two concepts together, once you learn both of them, kind of put them together, you will use them the rest of your life, and you will look at every single circuit from both an AC standpoint and a DC standpoint. And we'll get deeper into that as we get into this input network. Next up, a little concept here that says multiple components put together can form something called a circuit that perform a specific function. And the reality is, this is the magic of electronics. It's not individual components. It's when you put them together and they start doing something that the individual components could not do, and all of a sudden you have this little magic circuit. Let me give you an example here, okay? Down here at the bottom, we have something called a high-pass filter. In other words, it lets high frequencies flow through it, and it blocks low frequencies from going through it. Do you see the little capacitor there and the little resistor that make this up? Take a look up above there at C3 and the fixed resistor as part of the potentiometer of R1. All of a sudden, you have what's called a classic high-pass filter. And most people would probably not look at that input network there and say, oh, not only is there some DC blocking going on and some volume potentiometer, but there's also a high-pass filter at play. That's the kind of stuff you're going to learn in this video series. The last simple little concept, and we just gave an example of it actually, is components in circuit can act differently at different AC frequencies. Okay, and I'm going to give you a good example up here. C3, this input capacitor right here, it allows AC signals to flow through it, but it blocks DC signals. Well, you can think of an AC signal at 0 frequency, 0 hertz. That is really a DC signal. So it blocks things at 0 hertz, things above that, and lets them flow through that. So you just have to have these concepts that these components can act differently at different frequencies. And if you can put your head around these things, we can dive in. Video 2 about the input network. I hope I've whetted your appetite enough at this point to make you want to watch this series. I'm going to do it classroom style. I get a lot of comments from my viewers telling me they've learned a ton from the videos I make because I take the time to explain things. So I know my longer videos are not for everybody, but if this is for you, stay tuned. We're going to have fun in this series.